Chike wanted to shame his ex-wife by inviting her to his big wedding. He thought she would come looking sad and broken. But when Ngozi arrived in a shiny black Rolls-Royce with 3 little boys holding her hands, everyone froze. The same woman he once called barren now had triplets. And that was just the beginning. Once upon a time in the busy city of Ngozi, there lived a man named Chike. He was a wealthy businessman in his early 30s. Everyone in the town knew him as a man who loved money, cars, and power. Chike wore expensive suits, drove the newest cars, and walked with his head high as if the ground was not good enough for his shoes. He was proud, loud, and always wanted people to respect him. But behind the big house, behind the gold watch on his wrist, there was a part of his life that made him angry every single day. His wife, Ngozi, had no children. Ngozi was a quiet and gentle woman. She was beautiful with smooth brown skin and soft eyes that carried sadness most of the time. She had married Chike out of love, not for his money. And for 7 years she stood by his side. But those 7 years became years of pain because every month she waited and every month the news was the same. No child. One evening the storm that had been building in their marriage finally broke. The house was quiet, the air thick with tension. Ngozi sat at the edge of the bed, her hands clasped tightly together. Chike entered the bedroom with a frown, his tie pulled loose, his voice heavy with irritation. 7 years, Ngozi, Chike shouted, slamming his car keys on the dresser. 7 years of waiting and still no child. Do you want me to die without an heir? Ngozi lifted her eyes slowly, her voice trembling. Chike, I have tried. We have tried. It is not in my hands. Maybe we should see another doctor. Maybe there is still hope. Hope? Chike laughed bitterly. Is that what you have been telling yourself? I am tired of hope. My mother calls me every day to ask why you have not given me a son. My friends laugh behind my back. Do you know how it feels to be mocked as a man with no child? You have turned me into a fool. Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. Please do not speak like that. I am your wife. We made a vow before God. We said for better, for worse. Why do you throw it at me like I am nothing? Chike's voice grew louder. Because you are nothing to me now. What is a woman who cannot bear children? You eat my food, wear my clothes, ride in my car, yet you cannot give me one son to carry my name. Ngozi, you are a curse in my life. Ngozi's lips shook as she tried to speak. Do not call me a curse. I have prayed. I have cried. I go to bed every night begging God to give us a child. I am not happy, Chike. Do you think it gives me joy to be like this? I am in pain, too. Chike turned his back, pacing the room like a lion in a cage. His anger burned hotter with every word. Enough of your tears. I am done waiting. I will not allow you to waste my life. Tomorrow I will speak to my lawyer. This marriage is finished. Ngozi gasped as if her chest had been struck. Divorce. You will divorce me after everything? After I stood by you when you had nothing? After I left my family for you? Chike, have you forgotten the love we once had? Chike swung back to face her, his eyes cold and hard. Love cannot produce children. My mother was right. I should have left you long ago. I need a wife who can give me sons, not a woman who fills my house with silence. By tomorrow, Ngozi, I want you out of my house. Ngozi broke down, falling to her knees, clutching the edge of his trousers. Please, Chike, do not do this. Give me more time. Give us more time. God can still answer us. Chike pulled his leg away as if her touch disgusted him. God has nothing to do with this. You are the problem, and I am tired. You will leave. That is final. The argument echoed through the walls. The maids in the house whispered among themselves, but none dared to enter the room. Ngozi's sobs filled the air as she tried one last time. Chike, look into my eyes. Look at the woman who cooked for you, who washed your clothes, who prayed for you when you were sick. I have given you everything I could. Do not throw me away like trash. Buchik's heart was hardened. He picked up his phone and made a call in front of her. Yes, barrister. Ak, prepare the papers. I want a divorce immediately. Yes, she will leave tomorrow. Goy froze, staring at him in disbelief. You called your lawyer already? You planned this? Chike, how could you? Chike looked down at her, his tone sharp. Ngozi, you are a burden. I am freeing myself. If you love yourself, pack your things tonight. By morning, I do not want to see you here. Goy stood slowly, her body weak, her heart breaking into pieces. She walked to the wardrobe and began to fold her clothes into a small bag. Her hands shook so much that she could barely zip it. Every dress she folded carried memories. Birthdays, church services, quiet dinners. But now those memories felt like lies. As she packed, Chike stood watching, his arms crossed, his face stone cold. Not once did he move to stop her. Not once did his heart soften. Goy finally lifted her small bag, her tears falling freely. She turned to him one last time, her voice breaking. Chike, you will regret this. One day you will see the truth. One day you will understand what you have done. Buchik did not answer. He looked away as if she were already gone. With slow steps, Goy walked out of the bedroom, her slippers dragging on the marble floor. The house that once felt like a home now felt like a prison. She passed the maids who bowed their heads, afraid to meet her eyes. She pushed open the big front door, and the night air hit her face. She paused, looking back at the mansion she had called home for 7 years. Then she whispered to herself, I may be leaving with nothing, but I will not remain broken. My God will fight for me. And with that, Ngozi stepped into the darkness, her bag in her hand, her tears falling, but her spirit quietly vowing that this was not the end of her story. Goy didn't know where she was walking to that night. She just kept moving, holding her bag close to her chest. The street lights were on, but the road felt dark. Her legs were shaking and her eyes were wet. She could still hear Chike's voice in her ears. You are a burden. I am freeing myself. She walked past shops, past sleeping dogs, past women closing their stalls. No one looked at her twice. No one knew that the woman passing them had just lost her home, her husband, and her peace. Her friend, Amarka, lived a few streets away. She was the only person could think of. They had known each other since university, and even though life had taken them in different directions, Amarka's door was always open. Goy knocked gently. The time was almost 10 o'clock p.m. Amarka opened the door in her wrapper, shocked. Goy, what happened to you? Why are you crying? Did someone die? Goy couldn't speak. She just burst into tears again and fell into her friend's arms. Come inside. Come inside, Amarka said, pulling her into the small flat. She led her to a chair and closed the door. Talk to me, please. What happened? He threw me out, Ngozi whispered. Chike. Ngozi nodded slowly, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. He said, I'm a curse. He said, I'm the reason we don't have children. Amarka hissed and sat beside her. That man has no fear of God. After all these years, he didn't even check himself. Goy, you have suffered. Goy rested her head on Amarka's shoulder. I don't even know where to start. I left with just this bag. All my things are still in that house. Amarka touched her arm gently. Don't worry. You will sleep here tonight. You can stay as long as you need. I don't have much, but this house is your house now. Goy closed her eyes and let out a long sigh. Thank you, Amara. The room was silent for a few seconds. Then Amarka stood up. Come, let me boil water. You'll take a hot bath and eat something. Tomorrow, we'll talk about what next. Goy sat there as Amarka walked away, her eyes staring at the floor. Her heart felt like it had cracked into many pieces. That night, she couldn't sleep. Even though the bed was soft and the room was quiet, her mind kept going back to the moment Chike told her to leave. She remembered how he turned his face away, how he looked at her like a stranger. By morning, her pillow was soaked with tears. Days passed. Ngozi stayed in Amarka's house trying to hide her sadness, but she couldn't eat much. She barely spoke. She would sit near the window, staring outside as if waiting for something to change. Amarka tried everything to cheer her up. One morning, she said, "Noi, come with me to the market. Let's walk around, breathe some fresh air." But Ngozi shook her head. "I don't want people to see me. What if someone asks about Chike? What will I say?" "You'll say the truth," Amara replied. "That is a fool who threw away a diamond because he wanted a stone." Ngozi gave a small smile, but it didn't last. Later that week, Amarka brought up something important. "Ngozi, have you ever gone for a proper medical checkup?" Ngozi looked at her confused. "What kind of checkup? A fertility test? Have you ever tested yourself to be sure the problem wasn't from you?" Ngozi shook her head slowly. "Chike said it was me. He never agreed to go for tests himself. He said he was fine." Amaka frowned. "So you just believed him?" "I didn't have a choice," Ngozi said, her voice weak. "He wouldn't listen. And his mother. His mother called me names. They all blamed me." Amarka stood up. "No, this has to stop. We're going to the hospital tomorrow. Let them run all the tests. I need you to hear the truth from a doctor, not from that proud husband of yours." Ngozi didn't argue. She was tired of guessing. Maybe, just maybe, she needed answers. The next day, they went to Life Hope Medical Center. A quiet private hospital where Amarka knew one of the doctors. Dr. Yuk, a soft-spoken man in his 40s, welcomed them into his office. "How can I help you, Madam Ngozi?" he asked gently. Ngozi looked down. Amarka answered for her. She was married for 7 years. No child. Her husband divorced her because he said she was barren, but she has never done any test. "We want a full checkup." Dr. Yuk nodded slowly. "You did the right thing by coming here. We'll run some tests, then we'll talk." They spent the next few hours doing blood work, scans, hormone tests. Ngozi felt nervous the whole time. What if Chike had been right? What if she really was the problem? 2 days later, the results were ready. Ngozi sat in front of the doctor, her hands sweating. Dr. Uche adjusted his glasses and smiled. "Madam, everything looks good. Your reproductive system is healthy. You're ovulating well. Your hormone levels are normal. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you." Blinked. "Nothing. Nothing." The doctor repeated. "If there was no pregnancy for 7 years, I advise you ask your ex-husband to check himself. From what I see, you are completely fine." Ngozi covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. I don't know what to say." Amarka jumped from her seat. "I knew it. I knew it. That man lied to you, Ngozi. He blamed you just to cover his own shame." Ngozi felt her whole world spin. "So all this time, I wasn't the problem." Dr. Yuk smiled kindly. "You were never the problem. And when you do find the right man, I believe you'll have your own children. Don't let what happened to you steal your peace." They thanked the doctor and left. Outside the hospital, Ngozi sat on a bench, her body shaking from the truth she had just heard. "All these years," she whispered, "I begged God. I cried every night. I hated myself. And I wasn't the one." Amarka sat beside her and held her hand. "Chike will pay for what he did to you. I swear, Ngozi, one day he will look at you and wish he never let you go." Ngozi looked up at the sky. "Maybe this is the beginning of my healing." The next few weeks were different. Ngozi started helping Amarka with her tailoring business. She wasn't smiling fully yet, but she was no longer lost. She began waking up early again, eating small meals, and even laughing sometimes. One evening she told Amaka, "I want to start something. Maybe a small food business. I've always loved cooking. Amaka smiled wide. Yes, that's the spirit. I'll help you. Let's make it happen. They used Amarka's small veranda to start a food stand. Every morning, Ngozi would cook rice, beans, maimoy, and soup. By 7 a.m. workers from nearby offices were lining up to buy. People began to know her again. Not as the woman Chike divorced, but as the woman who made the best jollof in the area. One afternoon, a customer smiled at her and said, "Madam, you look different. There's a glow on your face." Ngozi smiled softly. Maybe I'm finally free. But even with the small happiness, there were nights when the pain returned. One night as she was folding aprons, she turned to Amarka. "Do you think he ever loved me?" Amarka looked at her and said slowly, "I think he loved himself more. That's the only thing I'm sure of." Ngozi nodded. "I just wish I didn't waste so many years." "You didn't waste them," Amarka said. "You grew. You became stronger. And one day, God will give you more than you lost." Ngozi didn't reply, but deep inside something was changing. A small fire had started. A quiet strength. One Sunday afternoon, Amarka came home from church with news. "Ngozi, guess what?" Ngozi looked up from her pot of soup. "What happened?" "I saw Chike's cousin today. He told me Chike is preparing to marry someone new. A flashy girl from Lagos." Ngozi's heart paused for a moment. "Oh," she said quietly. "He's even inviting some of your old friends to the wedding," Amarka added. "He wants people to come and see what a real wife looks like." Ngozi looked away. "He hasn't changed at all." Amarka came closer. "You know, he might even send you an invite just to mock you." Ngozi didn't say anything. She stirred her soup slowly. Then she whispered, "Let him do whatever he wants. I know who I am now." But that night, as she lay on her bed, her hand rested on her belly. She stared at the ceiling for a long time, remembering what the doctor said. "You're healthy." She placed her other hand over her chest. "God, if you ever saw my tears, please show the world that I was never the problem." And she closed her eyes, not with pain, but with a small smile of peace. Ngozi stood in front of her food stand one morning wiping the edge of a table with a cloth. The street was already buzzing with life. Children were rushing to school. Kick drivers were honking and women were calling out prices from their stalls. She was wearing a simple gown with a scarf tied around her head. The smell of her jollof rice filled the air and a small line was already forming. She smiled weakly at each customer, dishing rice and stew into takeaway plates. But inside her heart there was a quiet war. One part of her was moving on. But another part still remembered the pain. Still remembered Chike's voice. Still remembered how she was called barren, useless, and thrown out like trash. "Madam, 2 plates, please." A man's voice broke her thoughts. She turned. The man standing there was tall with kind eyes and a calm face. He wore a white shirt tucked into neat brown trousers and he carried a small black laptop bag. He smiled gently, pointing to the rice pot.